Hello, and welcome to the official campaign launch for your Ward 3 candidate, Matthew Green. My name is Jordan Williams, and I am a student activist for students with learning disabilities. Some of you may know me from the rallies that I have led in our fight to save the Parkview School community. Thank you. No? How about now? I'm happy to report that this community has been an incredible support to us, and I would like to say thank you for that support. We all have come here today to support the community leadership and advocacy of my friend Matthew Green. When he personally called me to ask if I would like to serve as MC, I felt honored. Honored to be able to get involved to help the community and his campaign. I personally know he supports youth leadership as a key building block in our city's future. And this afternoon is very much about our future. If you're anything like me, you know what it is like to feel bullied. And if you're anything like me, you know you're not afraid to take a stand for what you believe in and know is right. This afternoon, we gather here as fighters. Matthew knows what it is like to face struggles, and he also knows what it takes to overcome them. He also knows that standing together means we have the strength to face the challenges that show themselves to us. This defines community effort, which requires every generation to speak and to have our voices heard. And so, up next, I would like to invite to the stage Ms. Patricia Wright, who will be introducing Matthew this afternoon. Ms. Wright's career spans decades. She is an experienced teacher, a diversity trainer, and a community activist. Ms. Wright's career achievements have earned her place in Canadian history. In 1993, she became the first Black person to be elected as provincial representative of the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation. Ms. Wright was also the first elective visible minority vice president of the Ontario Federation of Labour. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Patricia Wright.
Thank you very much. It is indeed my very, very great pleasure to introduce Matthew Green to you. And I'm indeed honored. When Matthew asked me to introduce him, I had to scratch my head. You see, because when you introduce somebody, you say something about them. And my problem was this. Matthew has done so much, and it's a long history. So where do I begin? And I thought, what should I say about Matthew? Maybe I should talk about his education. Maybe I should tell you that he's a very well-educated young man with great credentials from 3 different universities: Acadia University, McMaster University, and the Harvard Business School. But after I thought about it for a minute, I said, nah, not gonna do that. That's gonna be far too boring. All that would do would be telling you what he knows. So I said, oh, well, okay, what else should I do? Maybe I should tell you business, right? We all want business people at City Hall. We all want people who know about money, who know about the economy. Yep, I'm going to tell you about his business. Right here in Ward 3, he has Freestyle Fitness, where he uses his business to develop and strengthen the surrounding communities. But then I asked myself, is that what you want to hear? Nah, you don't want to hear that either. You probably want to hear about his belief in good health and fitness, and how he has combined with hard work and dedication as a key to success. If you also knew that he spent 7 years working in the Six Nations territory as a professional strength and conditioning coach, you would realize how great a person he is. And if you realized also that he won national and professional championships with the Rochester Nighthawks and the Six Nations Junior A and Junior B lacrosse clubs, you would know that he has tremendous passion and energy. But if I told you these things, all you would learn about Matthew is that he's an energetic and motivated young man with a positive vibe and deep-rooted foundational principles. You don't want to hear that, do you? No, you don't want to hear that either. So maybe I could tempt you to his candidacy. I could tempt you to his campaign if you knew about his work in the community. As a board member for the Hamilton Community Federation, as a co-chair of a local nonprofit, Empowerment Squared, and as a member of the Downtown Rotary Club. Would that interest you? Probably not. Probably not. You might probably, however, want to learn about his advocacy for social justice, his knowledge and deep interest in fairness and equity. You might want to know about his passionate desire to improve the community and his work as a community organizer for the integration of new Canadians, his work for renters' rights, and his work for seniors' recreation, and his commitment to building a better Hamilton. But all that would do would be to tell you how much he cares for his community and the people who live here. So you know what? Maybe I'm not going to tell you any of those things. The best thing I could do is to tell you about Matthew Green, the young man that I know, a true Hamiltonian. He's born here. He went to high school here. He grew up here. He's living here. He is a true born and bred Hamiltonian, and we just love those. I met this young man several years ago when we worked together at a program with the Public School Board, a program that we used to educate and inform teachers about the ways to reach out and include diverse students in their classroom. He impressed me then, and he continues to impress me to this day by his passion for education and for helping young people in the community. And he actually reminded me of a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow that says, "The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night." Matthew Green will toil upward in the night for us. That I know. He will toil upwards in the night for Ward 3, that we all know. And he will toil upwards in the night to make our community better. Yes, we know he's well educated. We know that he's a man of principles with a positive vibe. And we know that he cares about people. But what we should also know, he's a young man of integrity. He is someone in whom we will be proud because what? He cares. He's a young man who gets it. He knows what Ward 3 needs. He knows what needs to be done. And he has the skills, the knowledge, and the commitment and the energy to get it done. Please give me... Please give me the honor to introduce the next counselor for Ward 3, Matthew Green.
Whoever left this water bottle up here, thank you. In many ways, Ward 3 is to Hamilton what Hamilton is to the rest of our country. And when times were good, our industries built this city, as it supplied the steel that fed our manufacturing. And in fact, my grandfather moved here as an iron worker in the 60s in search of that so-called Hamilton good job. And he found security in his union, and he worked hard to feed his family. And my father followed in his father's footsteps and began his career welding in the late 70s up until my birth in 1980, right here in Hamilton. And when he switched in the 80s, from the risks of walking the iron to the safety of a shop teacher in the public school board, both of these good union jobs ensured that he can start and support a family with my mother, who found employment in Industry Canada when it used to be located here on James Street South. Neither my mother nor my father had to search too hard in the 70s and 80s to find decent careers, enough to raise a young family here in Hamilton. However, by the time the free trade agreement hit in the 1990s, at the exact same time of the rapid advances in industrial technology, our steel sector had already witnessed a sharp decline in its employment. As long-time Hamilton businesses rolled up their companies to find better tax breaks and cheaper wages somewhere else. And as we all know, Hamilton, in direct relationship to its steel heritage, began to go through its own economic challenges. And no neighborhood was hit harder than here in Ward 3. And it was also around this time that my mother explained to me the term equity, when she had to account for the equalization payments that she received, because when she worked all those years for the federal government, she did not receive equal pay to her male counterparts. And it was during this time in the mid-90s, as a teenager, I got my first real taste of activism when I joined my father and his teaching colleagues in the mass protests organized right here in downtown Hamilton against the austerity measures of that day. And it was there that I witnessed roughly 100,000 people take to the streets in the collective days of action to demonstrate our Canadian value in education, equity, and social justice could no longer be ignored as the masses of people joined together in solidarity to protect Ontario's future. These very valuable lessons of hard work, activism, equality, and social justice that I have been taught by my family and my community throughout my entire life have not been forgotten. And although at 18, when I left for Nova Scotia to study political science and legal studies at Acadia University, I thought then and there that I had left Hamilton for good. But I still kept that Hamilton pride, that grit that separates us from the squeaky GTA, and is something that I have stored in my heart and worn on my sleeve for my entire life. And I knew, as a young athlete, from the time I played my very first Little League football game just down the road at Ivor Wynne Stadium at 9 years old, that if I couldn't be the biggest or if I couldn't be the fastest, then I would simply have to outwork everybody on the playing field if I were to be successful in helping our team win. A little clap there. I am also a representation of Ward 3, and by extension, a representation of our city of Hamilton. And so in many ways, the challenges that I have personally faced living here, buying my first home here with my incredibly supportive, beautiful spouse, Jade. Thank you. Got a little choked. And bringing my small business of inspiring clients, friends to Ottawa Street North. And ultimately, when Jade and I raise our family here, these personal experiences give me a unique, qualified understanding of what it takes to win directly in the face of adversity. We, in Ward 3, are to Hamilton what Hamilton is to the rest of the country. Thank you. And for the past few decades, there have been those inside and outside of our city who would believe that our neighborhoods are without value, beyond repair, and beyond hope. There are those who would seek to define us by our struggles, but we know that we have much more to offer than that. And how do we know this? We know this because we live here, because we work here, because we play here. And for the past 3.5 years, I had the privilege to serve on the Hamilton Community Foundation as a director on their board. It's a $125 million foundation committed solely to the success of the city. And so back in 2010, I understood the necessity for everyone in Hamilton to have a very honest conversation around poverty in our city. And from the stigma of Code Red, from the studies that have identified where we have fallen short to our fellow man, woman, and child, has arisen a direct investment in the people of our community and a renewal at the neighborhood level of resident-led action. When we come together to decide for ourselves to take these challenges head on, we know where to look for the solutions. Here first. When we look to foster compassion and inclusive community, we know that we must find the compassion here first. When we seek to rebuild an economy that will offer a decent living wage to enable our families to fully participate in our community, we know that as neighbors, we must spend our hard-earned dollars to support the local small businesses. And as local small businesses, we know that we have to hire the local workforce here first. And when speaking about the redevelopment, the real estate redevelopment of our communities, we know that we must put flesh and blood over bricks and mortar. That the value of offering inclusive opportunities to dignified, affordable housing requires that we must include those living here already here first. And as we continue to organize our streets and our neighborhoods, we must look for leadership here first. And as you are witness today, leadership must be shared with the many and not kept by the few. Today, you have all been leaders. You have helped define our community the values of safety, vibrancy, and opportunity. You have shared your neighborhood success stories with us. You have brought your children, your neighbors, to join in the community conversation of rebuilding our neighborhoods. You have joined us in a journey that will continue for the next 197 days to October 27th, when we will decide for ourselves who we need to take Ward 3 into the future. I, Matthew Green, stand before you, a candidate, a neighbor, a friend, and I am willing to stand beside you as we take these next steps together. And I know it won't be easy. In fact, I already know it's going to be hard. But in the end, I know that if we join together, here and now, it will be worth it. Ward 3, my neighbors, my friends, will you stand with me? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is a community conversation. We have on the wall the opportunity for you to define the values of our community. I ask that you take that opportunity. We have the opportunity for you to share your personal success story. We are asset-based. Surrounding me, you will see green shirts representing my friends and neighbors who have come together to help organize this. From the bottom of my heart, I say thank you to everybody who took the time to join us today. Thank you. Thank you. Lastly, I would like to thank all the sponsors, Genuine Bakery, Dora's came through with some food, Zestra's. I would like to thank Essence Banquet Center. We made a very thank you. Yes, please, give them a round. I've been walking up and down Barton Street for the last little while, meeting with the local businesses, going to the neighborhood association meetings, and we made a very definitive decision to have our launch here in the North End on Barton Street because we believe in this community. We believe in this neighborhood and we believe in this street. Thank you very much.